Hi, everyone. Good to be with you again. Thank you, as always, for the comments on previous. Sorry, my collar's a little off there. Thank you for the comments and the kind words on previous posts. It is an absolute privilege to be here talking with you about music and know that there are some people out there who want to hear what I have to say. Today's a big day in the music world. Bob Dylan turns 80 years old today. I'm kind of hopping on the bandwagon, but kind of not because, like so many of us, over the last 60 years that he's been in the recording business, uh, I got turned on to his music at a very young age. It's come to mean quite a lot to me. You cannot deny his influence. You might like some songwriters better, um, but he was so groundbreaking in vocal technique and in musicianship. He's a criminally underrated musician, really, guitar player and piano player and whatnot. And so, anyway, I want to kind of highlight two honorable mentions and then my three favorite Dylan albums. I'm not going to call them the best, although I certainly argue they're among his best work, but the ones I'm going to talk about are the ones that really have spoken to me a lot over the years that I just instantly related to for whatever reason or another. Um, the honorable mentions are coming up because they're not studio albums per se or live albums. They're from his fabled bootleg series. I can't even remember how many have come out now over the years. They've been a fascinating look into his creative process from the early 60s through the early 2000s. There hasn't been anything of recent vintage, which is too bad because, well, I love his work lately. In the last 30 ish years, just over 30 years. And so, anyway, from the bootleg series, my two favorites are this one here. Sorry, another self portrait. This is from the late 60s through early 70s. It covers self portrait, New Morning, a little bit of, I think Nashville Skyline is on here. Some of his performances from the Isle of Wight with the band. That was a really strange time for a lot of people. They didn't care for a lot of what came out. He was messing with the public a lot, but I tell you, when you go back and re-examine the work from the 69 to 71, he was putting out some killer music, and maybe if this had been what came out, it might have been more successful. I don't know, but I love this. I remember the first time I just sat on a quiet Sunday morning in my music room at our old house. Loved it. And then this one from my favorite time period of Dylan, which is the late 80s through the early 2000s. Telltale Signs covers a lot of ground, a number of studio albums and live versions on here, some soundtrack stuff. You know, his voice is a lot raspier here than it was when he was younger. His songwriting got deeper, I think. And he admitted he couldn't do the twist of words that he did in the 60s, but he can do other things. And those other things, the stories he tells, the tales he weaves, um, absolutely love Telltale Signs. Another Self Portrait was volume 10, Telltale Signs was number 8. I do have the middle one too. If you go looking for number 9, it's the Whitmark demos from 62 to 64, which uh, really, his sort of creative genesis after he stopped trying to be Woody Guthrie and started being Bob Dylan. So anyway, we'll move on. And these are, it's hard to say it's 3, 2, and 1 because they could really flip at any given moment. So we'll just call these my three favorites. And I'm going to start much later in his catalog than a lot of people might. Again, from 89 onward is really my favorite Dylan. Um, I wasn't there for the 60s. I take nothing away from it. Um, those songs were groundbreaking. They made him a legend for a reason. 70s stuff is where I really got interested in him. So, you talk Tangled Up in Blue and Desire, the back to back records. Well, he had a lot of turmoil going on in his personal life. Again, those are great. Those would be my honorable mentions probably. Were I to have a top five, Desire and Blood on the Tracks would be 4 and 5. Um, so I guess this really is my top five, isn't it? Anyway, number three, 2012, actually released September 11th, 2012, is Tempest. And his voice was at its absolute most raspiest here. There's old-timey music, there are ballads, there's story songs, there's blues, there's redemption songs, there's a lament. The closing song, Roll On John, is for John Lennon. It opens with the sort of upbeat 40s-esque, 30s-esque Duquesne whistle. The ballad Soon After Midnight is beautiful. Long and Narrow Way is a good rocker. Long and Wasted Years. The one I think most people associate, sorry, kind of holding that, is just a brutal masterpiece on here. It's called Pay in Blood. My conscience is clean, and how about you? And I pay in blood, but not my own. Just some brutal lyrics from him. Scarlet Town, Early Roman Kings, Tin Angel, Tempest, which was a very long song about the sinking of the Titanic. Not everybody's cup of tea, but it is mine. And so my number three favorite, Dylan, at an absolute creative zenith here, as he's had so many of over the years. Kind of a, not a lot of information, kind of a cool inner cover there, Trying to see, Charlie Sexton, the great Charlie Sexton is on guitar with him, along with some other master artists. Charlie being out of Texas, and he plays with Terry Allen now. Number two, and I had the privilege of seeing him on this tour. It was my first, and unfortunately to date only time seeing Bob live, was on the 2001 tour. I saw him November, I can't remember the exact date, November 2001 at Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in support of Love and Theft. This came out on September 11th, 2001. Not exactly a great day for new music to come out. We all remember where we were that day. So music, whatever came out that day, it took a little while to take on, to be recognized. But when I heard this, when I finally bought it a month or so later, I was floored, just completely floored. Again, this is another one where he has so many different styles. I must mention again Charlie Sexton on guitar, and the great roots musician Larry Campbell, guitar, violin, banjo, and mandolin on here, along with a couple of other players who've been with him a while. Again, this one opens with the sort of turning Tweedledee and Tweedledum, not just from fairy tales, but just mean versions of themselves. It's really funny. The great ballad Mississippi, the sort of 40s or 50s upbeat tempo song. Hard to describe it. Summer Days, By and By, Lonesome Day Blues is a take on a couple of other old blues songs, and he combines them. High Water for Charlie Patton, great Delta style song, really sort of true to the genre, in a Bob Dylan way. A bunch of other great ones on here. Fantastic album, 2001, Love and Theft. I still have my tour T-shirt from that. It didn't even have the tour dates on it. Bob played 2 hours and 15 minutes or so, 23 songs. Didn't say a word to the audience the whole time, as he's prone to doing. When he introduced the band during the middle of Rainy Day Women, he did it in tune and singing, which was really fun. No Hello Goodnight, but he got up there and just slayed it, played amazing renditions of some of this, and then some other songs, obviously a ton of other songs. That night he did not play any songs from my number one album, and this, I don't know how many other people count this as number one, but it ranks really high, and it signaled him coming out of a self-admitted fog where he was disinterested in not doing a whole lot of great songs or albums. He was bored with touring after he went down to New Orleans, stayed down there, recorded in an old house across from a graveyard. Daniel Lanois, this was the first time he'd produced a Dylan album. There was a lot of tension in the studios during this, and it led to Bob's best album since the 70s. Of course, talking about Oh Mercy, I do have a vinyl copy of this one I could have shown too, but we'll just stick with CDs for now for the sake of it. The others, unfortunately, I don't have the vinyl copies yet. Opens with the satirical political world, 50s doo-wop style ballad, Where Teardrops Fall, societal observation and everything is broken. Gets a little religious on Ring Them Bells. Not religious, spiritual, I should say. My favorite song on here, and side one is stronger than side two, but I still pick this as being number one or in the top three. Man in the Long Black Coat. It's just eerie. It's spooky. It could only have been recorded in New Orleans in a deep summer heat. Most of the time, what good am I? Disease of Conceit. What Was It You Wanted? Willie Nelson actually did a really good cover of that, and he would do it live about 3 years later on the Bob Dylan 30th anniversary concert. And he closes with one of the most beautiful ballads ever written, Shooting Star. So, again, top of the heap for me, Oh Mercy by Bob Dylan. Going backward real quick, we have Love and Theft from 2001. I forgot to mention, sorry, Oh Mercy was 89. And then we go back to Tempest. Dylan's probably most diverse record of the last 30 some odd years. To me, one of his absolute strongest, remains a masterpiece. And then if you're trying to navigate through the bootleg series stuff and you don't know where to start, I honestly do recommend going back to the late 60s. All the stuff had come out after he was in his accident. He was following his own muse wherever it took him, which was all over the place. And then Telltale Signs, 1989 to 2006. I thought it was 02, but it's actually 06. So I should have read the front cover first. Anyway, so Bob Dylan's music, like I say, it's been such a keystone to pop culture, to great writing in the last 60 years. He put his first album out, I believe, in 62, might have been 61, but I think it was 62. So this is the 60th year he's been involved in the recording industry. He's performing before that. Like so many of you, his music has meant a lot to me. I don't love all of it. I admit that, and I don't think he would expect any of his fans to say, yep, I love every single thing he ever did. But I have a good chunk of his albums. There are so many high points in his career. He's changed paths so many times. He's followed his own, his gut feeling. He's done what he's wanted to do, for better or worse, and he's just an absolute master. So Bob, thank you. You'll never see this, but so what? 80 years old, happiest of birthdays. Thank you so much for everything you've given the music and the artistic world. Again, please check these albums out. Leave your comments underneath. Let me know what you think. If you disagree, please be respectful. Leave your top three. Maybe tell a little bit why. Again, these ones I picked. The musicianship is great. The songwriting is stellar. I love his voice in his later years. But it's just the ones that connect with me. In my head, in my heart, in my gut feeling. That's a lot of what music is. I can't explain it. So anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I look forward to talking with you again soon. I have another one I'm planning. I finally have all the albums I need, and I look forward to debuting that with you all soon too. So take care, everyone.